Hello friends! Start animating in OpenToonz and you'll soon find that the number of columns that you use on your timeline can start to get out of hand. And it would be great if you could put them into a folder or to group them somehow. And you might know that OpenToonz doesn't have folders on the timeline, but it does have something that we can use for a similar result, the sub-xsheet. And like a folder that can contain files and other folders, we can use the sub-xsheet to do the same thing. Well, a few weeks ago, I released my Getting Started with OpenToonz project that you can see just here. And to keep it simple for new users, I wanted to show just one column for the instructions instead of the 5 columns that I actually used. And to do this, I used a sub-xsheet. And today, I want to show you how I did it. I want to show some of the pitfalls to watch out for, and also how it can help you with your animations. So to combine these 5 columns into one, just click and drag over the column headers that you want included. Like that, and it doesn't have to be all of them, and it can't include the camera column. That's a special column that's shown on the timeline. Then either right click on one of the column headers and choose collapse, or once selected, click this button here on the toolbar to collapse them down. And that will combine all of the selected columns into a single column. And as a single column, you can do all the usual things that you do with any other column. So you can rename it by double clicking on the header here and give the column a new name. You can move it up and down the timeline. You can add effects to it and so on. And you can see the frame numbers from the levels contained in the sub-xsheet here. There's 32 shown here. And like the frame numbers shown on the timeline from normal drawing levels, you can change their timing by highlighting them and then choosing to change them to perhaps 2s or 3s. Or you can select on a single frame and then click the little drag handle here to expose that frame to last longer, or even show them more than once. So if I copy frame number 3, for instance, I can paste it at the end here in cell 39, or even change their order. So if I highlight from frame 10 up to frame 20, I can right click, and in the edit cell numbers flyout, I can choose reverse. And now that shows frame 21st coming down to frame 10. And if you decide that the order of the drawings in the levels inside the sub-xsheet is better, you can just right click on the column header and then choose resequence. And this changes the sequence of the frame shown here to only those shown in the sub-xsheet. And creating a sub-xsheet like this and changing the timing is fine once all your drawings are completed. But how do we edit those levels again inside the sub-xsheet? And how does this work like a folder? Well, in the same way that as a folder can contain files and other folders, sub-xsheets contain drawing levels and can have other sub-xsheets inside them. So to get to the contained levels, you just select a cell in this sub-xsheet here on the main timeline, and then click this button over here to open the sub-xsheet. And then you can see all of the levels again. And then we can edit the levels as we would normally. And when we're ready, we can just click the button to the side of this, which is for closing the sub-xsheet. And this takes us back to the main timeline where we see the sub-xsheet as a single column. But one pitfall to watch out for is what happens when you add frames inside the sub-xsheet. And they don't do what you probably think they would. But I'll tell you all about that in a minute. Because first, I want to quickly thank my Patreon supporters for their support. With special thanks to Maria, Rodney, and to Robert, who along with the supporters on my Team Mug tier, all saw this video a week early, as well as receiving other benefits. So why don't you check it out and see if that's for you. But if not, if you did find this video useful, then I'd appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up, which will help the video spread to other users. Or, if you're feeling flush, consider treating me to a coffee or a Darren Tea. But back to sub-xsheets. If we open the sub-xsheets again and add some frames while inside, so if I come to this level here and add a blank drawing, and let's add 2 in here. So this is frame number 33. So if I grab a standard brush, make it quite large and just put 33 on here, so we recognise which frame we're looking at, and then 34, and then go back to the main timeline by closing the sub-xsheet. The new drawings aren't shown, But if you remember from the command from earlier, we can use the resequence command to show all of the frames from the sub-xsheet on the main timeline. So if I select the header here, right click and choose resequence, you'll see frames 33 and 34 appear on the main timeline. Alternatively, if I delete the last few frames here, I don't mind how many, and then I select one or more of the end frames, as I then extend these drawings, you'll see that OpenToonz can see the order of the frames and exposes the next ones in the sequence. And if there's no drawings in those frames, it shows the number in red, so we know when we need to stop. So let's bring this back down to 34, and we can see those drawings again. But why aren't new drawings that are created in the sub-xsheet shown automatically? And the question really should be, why should they be shown? Picture working in the sub-xsheet like working in the level strip. So let me add a drawing level and I'll show you what I mean. So if you create drawings on the main timeline, they're created and exposed at the same time. Drawing 1, drawing 2, drawing 3. And you can see these drawings in the level strip just up there. But if we create a drawing directly in the level strip, drawing 4 and drawing 5, they're not exposed automatically on the timeline. You have to add them yourself. So you have to select them and then click and drag onto the timeline to get them exposed in here. And the sub-xsheet frames are just like this. Just keep this in mind and you'll be fine. And if you want to see more about using sub-xsheets in another project, take a look at this video just here. And it's quite an old video, but you'll see how I use sub-xsheets to separate the background and the character, and how to reuse the character animation with them, as well as adding effects to the sub-xsheet. And I think you'll find it quite an eye-opener. And that's a Darren Tea.